Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Maya, for inviting me to join you this evening. I mentioned to Maya walking up here that it's an act of some bravery to bring so many budgeteers together on a roof in Washington in the middle of budget season. I hope that's something that should give us all optimism as we go forward. I want to congratulate the new board members, many old friends, and it's good to be here with so many new and old friends. The time for the meeting couldn't be more appropriate. We're in a season of very serious discussions in Washington on what to do about the federal budget. Can you not hear me? Is that better? Okay. It couldn't be a more appropriate time to gather to talk about the budget. We obviously face some very crucial decisions over the next weeks and months. And I think I don't need to tell the folks here that many of these decisions are long overdue. Two things going on in Washington right now are a debate over the debt limit and a debate over fiscal policy. We've tried very hard to keep these issues separate. We understand that there is a desire and perhaps a need to bring them together legislatively, but they're really very different issues. Fundamentally, the issue of the debt limit is one of meeting our obligations as a country. We've already incurred those obligations. At some level, we have no choice. At a very, very fundamental level, we have no choice. Frankly, the more important question is how are we going to get our hands around the fiscal challenges that we face, because the debt limit is not something that will go away as an issue. If we keep building the debt and don't take action to control the annual deficit that's driving the debt, it's going to make future debt limit votes even more difficult, and frankly, it's going to put at jeopardy many, many things in our economy. So the question is, what can we get done? How can Washington actually bridge the differences and agree on significant deficit reduction in this very divisive time? I think that the answer to that, and what gives me optimism, is that there is a clearer focus on the need for action now than, frankly, there was even in 1997 or 1993 or in 1990. In each of those years, there were not the same external forces that were bringing into focus the risk that failure to act could undermine the economy. While I'm not sure that I would have ever chosen to have reports like the Standard & Poor's or Moody's or Fitch reports, they do focus the mind, and they focus the conversation in Washington on the fact that these are not just political decisions, but they're economic decisions. The question of whether or not we extend the debt limit is really a question about whether or not the United States credit remains the one and only really risk-free credit in the world. That is a huge issue. That is something that you don't get to make a mistake once and then fix it. Once you create risk where risk has never existed, it becomes a new reality. Getting our deficit under control. If we don't take action now, if we don't create the sense of confidence, the projections that the debt as a percentage of GDP will rise and rise and rise and ultimately become 100% of GDP, it's not sustainable. Now, if you look at the reports that the credit rating agencies have put out, I think it's interesting to note that they distinguish pretty carefully between their political assessment and their economic assessment. Their economic assessment is that we can get this under control. We can make decisions, and we are still a very much creditworthy, healthy country. Their assessment that's causing more concern is a political one. It's saying we don't trust that Washington will be able to do that. And that's what makes us nervous. And that brings me back to my core point, which is why everyone is focused on solving the problem and solving it now. We're in the middle of budget negotiations. I don't think it's ever been the case that budget negotiations have begun with all the parties essentially defining the problem in a similar, if not identical way. There is, I think, a consensus that we need to, in the near and medium term, reduce the deficit by $4 trillion. Whether it's 10 years or 12 years is something of a technical detail. I think that once you've set that goal out there, you're on the way to solving the problem, because failure to do it is acknowledging that your failure to address that is the cause of whatever follows afterwards. Now, I'm a bit of an optimist, I will confess, but I think that in the discussions that are taking place now, where I'm participating with the Vice President and other members of the administration team, I think there are many who are already surprised that several weeks into the negotiations, there is still an atmosphere of cooperation, there is an atmosphere of shared purpose, there is an increasing sense of definition of what we need to do. Now, I'm obviously not at liberty to share any of the details of what that definition is, because the conversation is frankly good enough that it's staying within the room. One of the signs in Washington of whether things are working or not is, are the parties actually honoring the agreement to keep the conversation private until it's ready to be shared publicly? This is not an insignificant accomplishment, several weeks into these discussions. This week, next week, are critical period, where I think all focused on the calendar. We all know that August 2nd is a date that has real significance in terms of the debt limit. We all know that the congressional calendar only leaves a few weeks for action between now and August 2nd. So I am going to go back to work after I finish with you tonight, because that's what you do at times like this. I wish I could spend the evening and talk for several hours as opposed to a few minutes with the folks here. But I'd be delighted to take a couple of questions now if that's what Bill would like.
Floor is open. Looks like it was a perfect speech. Oh no, there's one complainant back there. Larry?
So, I'm looking at my good friend Erskine Bowles. The question is, why didn't we just embrace the Bowles-Simpson report and move on? I think the Bowles-Simpson Commission, and I should say my good friend Alan Simpson, he's standing in the middle. How could I miss you? The Bowles-Simpson Commission did incredibly important work. The consensus that I'm describing would not exist if the Commission had not done its work, if the Rivlin-Domenici Commission had not done its work, if the Gang of Six was not doing its work, and if the President was not doing his work. This is not something that comes out of nowhere. It comes out of a concentrated effort to analyze the problem, to work through it, and to grapple with the solution. Now, there are many things about what the President has put forward that actually do embrace the Bowles-Simpson work. And I think as we go forward, that's going to become increasingly clear that many are looking there to find a path forward. So I think there are times and places for embrace, and I think that when the story of this budget cycle is written, the Bowles-Simpson report and the work of the Commission will in fact be proven to have had great effect.
Okay, well thank you very much, Jack. We really appreciate that.